We're about to dive into a passage from the book of Romans that isn't just another set of verses. No, this is a foundational, world-altering shift in how we understand everything about God and our relationship with Him. We're looking at Romans chapter 3, verses 21 through 31. Some have called this passage the theological earthquake of Scripture. And believe me, that is not an exaggeration. What happens here is like a seismic event that literally rearranges the entire landscape of faith, justice, and mercy.
But to really feel the tremors of this earthquake, you have to understand what came before it. For chapters, a case has been building, this powerful, airtight argument that presses all of humanity into a corner, leaving us with absolutely nothing to say, completely silent before a holy God.
And then everything that comes after, all the hope, all the freedom, all the new life, it all flows directly from what's revealed in these few verses. This is the source, the headwaters of the river of grace.
So let's get into it. Part 1, the world on trial. I want you to picture a cosmic courtroom. For 3 chapters, the Apostle Paul has been acting like a prosecutor, and he's put the entire world on the witness stand.
First up, the Gentiles. That's basically all the nations outside of God's chosen people, Israel. And the evidence against them is everywhere. It's in creation itself. But they've suppressed that truth. They're left with no excuse. The verdict comes in. Condemned. Well, okay, but what about the Jewish people? They had the law, the prophets, the very promises of God. Surely they're in a better position, right? Wrong. The verdict is exactly the same. Condemned. You see, having the law didn't make them righteous. It just acted like a spotlight, revealing how deeply they couldn't keep. So the result of all this is a deafening global silence. Every defense has been shot down. Every excuse has been stripped away. Every single mouth is stopped. The whole world is guilty before God. So let's just recap the verdict. First, no one is righteous, not one person. Second, the law's job is to expose sin. Think of it like a divine MRI. It gives you a perfect, detailed picture of the disease, but it has zero power to cure you. And that's the third point. The law heals none. This is the dead end where all of humanity finds itself. And right there, at the bottom, in that moment of absolute and total hopelessness, comes the great turn. It might just be the most important turn in all of human history, and it's captured in just 2 little words. Just feel the tension in that courtroom. The case is closed. The verdict is guilty. A crushing silence fills the air. What could possibly happen next? But now, these 2 words from Romans 3:21 explode into the silence. They're the hinge on which all of history swings. It's not just a transition in an argument. It's the announcement that a completely new reality has just crashed into the old one. Now, it's so important we understand what this "but now" means. It does not mean, okay, humanity, try harder. And it definitely does not mean, well, you couldn't do it, so I'll just lower the standard. No. It means something has happened completely outside of us. It means God Himself has acted. God has intervened. This is where the gospel begins. So, what did God do? Well, He has revealed a righteousness, a right standing with Him that is completely different from anything we could ever produce on our own. It's a righteousness that comes from God. This right standing is revealed, not achieved. You don't earn it by being good enough. You don't discover it through deep thinking. It comes as a gift from God, totally apart from the law. And yet, this isn't some brand new plan. The Old Testament, the law and the prophets, was pointing to this moment all along. So how do we get this righteousness? Through faith. But we have to be so careful here. Faith isn't a good deed we do to impress God. It's not our contribution to the deal. Faith is simply the admission of bankruptcy. It's the empty hand held out to receive a gift you could never, ever earn. And this brings us to this incredible, staggering word, justified. To be justified is a legal term. It means that the judge of the universe looks at a guilty sinner and declares them righteous. It's not a process of becoming better. It's a declaration that happens in an instant. He declares us righteous, not because of us, but because of Christ. But hold on. This raises a huge question, doesn't it? How can a perfectly just God just declare guilty people not guilty? Wouldn't that compromise His own justice? The answer to that divine tension is found at the cross. This is the ultimate problem that only God could solve. How can he be perfectly just, the judge who must punish sin, and at the same time be the merciful justifier of those who trust in Jesus? How can he do both? Well, here is the absolute genius of the cross. First, sin is punished. God doesn't just look the other way. The full, terrifying weight of our sin is poured out on Jesus. Second, because sin is fully punished, God's justice is completely satisfied. His holy character isn't compromised one bit. And finally, with justice satisfied, his mercy can be unleashed. Not watered down, but a flood of full-strength, powerful grace. And you have to see this. The cross does something more than just save us. It actually vindicates God himself. For centuries, God had shown patience, and it might have looked like he was soft on sin. But the cross was his public declaration to the entire universe that he takes sin with ultimate seriousness, and that he was always planning to pay the debt himself through the perfect sacrifice of his son. So what does all of this mean for us, personally? If salvation is a completely free gift, received by an empty hand, it leads to one huge conclusion: the end of all human boasting. Paul knows the next question. So are we just throwing the law out? And he answers with a thundering, by no means. In fact, he says this faith is the only way to truly uphold the law, because Jesus did what the law demanded, but we never could. He lived it perfectly and paid its penalty completely. When you strip it all away, this is the liberating heart of the gospel. The bad news is worse than you think. You are more guilty than you ever feared. But the good news is better than you could ever dream. God is more gracious than you ever imagined, and Jesus Christ is more than sufficient for your every sin and every need. And this truth sets us free. It frees you from having to hide, from performing, from constantly measuring up. Because your standing before God isn't based on your performance today or tomorrow. It's based entirely on Christ's perfect performance. You stand before God right now and forever, clothed in the perfect righteousness of another.